today, on this last live,
Yes.
we're joined by someone very special.
Oh,
Yes.
Hello, welcome, Dr. Sanjay Juneja.
thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
How
It's
are
been a great
you?
program. Good. How are you all?
Very
good.
well. Very
Yeah.
well.
Riding on the energy of the
I know.
day.
Oh, it's infectious.
Yes. It's been very interesting with all the different lives that we had already,
Yeah.
but we were very looking forward to meet you live as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
No, I'm very humbled to be here. And anyone that's listening, cancer is a very sensitive thing, but bias, but I believe it's just people in it are just the strongest, character and will. And it's always just very humbling.
Amazing.
So I want to give a bit of context for those who may not know you. So you are a hematologist and medical oncologist, but many of you will probably know you from the OncDoc, where you raise awareness about cancer, of course. And we have noticed, obviously, your Instagram feed, and we're really impressed by the creativity of it.
We really love it. And the way you sprinkle a lot of fun and the interactions and your dances. We are very impressed with your dance moves.
We're fans.
Very big fans. So maybe we can start by what inspired you to do that, and how did you come up with something like that to bring awareness about cancer? So it's such a difficult topic sometimes.
It is. And I think at first, I kind of grew up with this culture, mostly from my parents, that anything that the world gives you that is somewhat favorable or, seems like a blessing, I've been primed to believe it's to enable you to do something, like to give it back in the world more, right? So I did not have social media, a few years back, and my chief fellow year on oncology, my wife was practicing like 4 or 5 hours away. So I just opened an app and did just dancing. It was a way to take the stress away from, the cancer world that I was training in. And then I got a bunch of, followers, and that whole term viral. And then it felt uncomfortable to have all these followers. I was like, we have to do something to make it, there must be a reason. And then so that basically, at first I talked about a lot of kind of gender bias and sexism in traditional medicine, just because I got to see it firsthand. And then I was like, well, let me talk about something I really know, and that's cancer. And I think social media made me appreciate very quickly how misunderstood it is, and how much more we owe people, like from the medical side, to teach about something very scary and that affects them directly. And it's so hard to find information. And if you don't win trust, then sometimes bad decisions can be made because how would somebody know better if you haven't taught somebody, something, the why, the how, and then there's information that's maybe dangerous that is available. And I think people trust information. And so that's how that started. And for the first year or so, I tried, the traditional way of teaching, like today we're going to talk about, XYZ, and I have somebody that's an expert from wherever. And a couple of hundred views. I mean, there's just so much to shop around for on the internet. And every now and then you'll see a comment where, well, why is he dancing on a serious, topic? Or I just don't understand the purpose of making it silly. But that's how now that's the kind of the hook, so that people can see that there's information out there. Because 200 views versus 2 million views, in 24 hours, as long as the content, as long as it's not in vain, and that there's a purpose or a greater good, which is very necessary, which I know we'll get to in a second about the information shared, is kind of, it feels more like a responsibility than just, a hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. I would also like to know, I guess that goes a bit hand in hand with this as well. In your experience, how can patients become more empowered in managing their health?
Yeah, you mean health with cancer or
with
before?
Cancer in general?
So I think it's, we always wish that there was one thing where it's like, this is what you need to do or not do, right? With pancreatic cancer and a lot of these kind of gastrointestinal cancers, we're like, is it the plastic bottles that we're drinking from? Like, why is it going up? And everyone kind of got scared about the plastic bottles. But we realized it's never going to be usually, one thing. And that, one way is comfortable. And the other way to think about it is also not completely suck out the quality of life trying to avoid something, right? I mean, it goes for accidents and driving and traveling. Everything has some degree of danger or risk. And so you just quote unquote do the best you can. And so some of the things that we do know, there was a study that came out in the last 6 months or a year that if you take two people that look the same, so me and my twin, I don't have a twin, but if I had one, and you have one that goes through life, has clinic and does everything they need to do, but doesn't really exercise intensely. And you have the other person that for 4 minutes, strenuous exercise. So their heart rate gets up to 150, 190. That person for 4 minutes a day compared to that just does everyday life, but doesn't get, their heart rate up. The person that exercises for 4 minutes gets has a 30% less chance of getting cancer in their lifetime. 30%.
Wow.
And so that's the importance of exercise. It's not necessarily, muscles and look good on, whatever, but to get your body stimulated that way helps your immune system. We've all beat cancer. Anyone listening right now, we've all beat cancer. We avoided cancer. Our body took care of us. What takes care of us? Mostly like our immune system and a lot of our physiology. So the things that make that better, which is exercise, good sleep. A lot of us don't sleep anymore, right? We're on our tablets, and then you don't get into that what's called deep REM sleep, and that's what kind of gives your immune system good health. And then of course, and I wish it wasn't the case, but overweight and being sensitive to sugar. There's a lot of theory that the amount of insulin our bodies, at least in America, are having to pump out all the time for these super high spikes. Insulin is a growth factor, and so that's why those lines always kind of mirror with each other, because the more growth factor you're subjecting your body to, cancer is literally unregulated cell growth. That's what it means. So you want to reduce the amount of whipping on these cells over time. So I think, those are the kind of main things. And I wish it wasn't so annoying to say fruits and vegetables, but truly, I mean, fruits and vegetables, we don't do much of that in the States here. And that in itself is like feeding your immune system in your gut. So you want to do those things as well. But, in general, I think if you can do a little bit, I say 4 minutes because it's not a ton, right? Just do jumping jacks or dance or whatever you want to do. And then, when you have your buffet or your choices, it's easy to do the mac and cheese, which I love. But like, if you could just dump some broccoli in there and dump some, those little things should make you feel good because you're doing something proactive.
Absolutely. We just heard earlier from a nutritionist as well, this idea of bringing different colors to your diet, the
Yes.
different colors in the vegetables and the fruits, and make so it can be like a rainbow of different colors. So we wanted to know, obviously, again, just trying to lighten up the topic of cancer, and you being this excellent dancer, if you think that incorporating something like that into a lifestyle change can be a positive way to be in better health.
I mean,
so something
there is no
fun tips that you can share with us.
Yeah, there is no question that mood and happiness and even the way you think, your confidence and optimism don't have a relation to your overall health, cancer or not cancer, but even with cancer, there's studies that show that. So like just that frame of mind, and we talk about education, but that makes you feel confident when you can even know the things you're doing are positive, it feels good, right? That's like having a good day at work where you got a lot done. So giving yourself the grace, or valuing yourself to be able to do the dances in the morning. It's a great time when you're getting ready. Just have the music and just get into it. Nobody's watching except the person in the mirror, and that is a very good thing. So if you can incorporate these things, those like you said, you nailed it. I mean, I think it just makes your quality of life, that minute a minute. We all have some finite number of minutes. Make those minutes as fun as possible rather than stressing about everything to do, right? Because
Absolutely. Yes, I think it's amazing.
I like dancing in the kitchen when I cook, for example. That's when I get my moves on.
Yeah.
Yes, and this sounds
not as good as your moves, of course.
No,
like that. I don't
believe that at all. No, but that also, now I'm going to be very embarrassed. But recently, because I haven't had as much time to work out, this is so embarrassing. When I dance, the music's up. Even when I'm brushing my teeth and stuff, I'm like trying to do my lunges and squats, because I'm like, I just need 4 minutes, right? So I'll take the stairs and stuff, and I will just do it ridiculously. And I dare say it makes me feel better for the day.
Hey, wherever you get your steps in, right?
That's right. Matter. Or your squats in, for that matter. Yep.
you already talked a lot about that a little bit before, but with all this information about health, online, how can individuals distinguish reliable sources from misinformation when researching about blood disorders and cancer? That is a topic that is definitely
very important.
Very
important
for our
to
community.
Differentiate. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think unfortunately the misinformation goes even on a deeper layer. And it's not just that there's stuff that's just obviously wrong, right? Like obvious to medical community. And that's tricky in itself. But another version of misinformation is it's very easy to read something that may not actually apply to you. And I think that's the bigger one to hone in on. So the first one, you want to go to sources you trust, right? Like, you want the literature that's evidenced. Don't let them say, well, a lot of studies show that, drinking green water is great. I mean, if there's no reference, so you want to go to sources you trust. Here we use Leukemia Lymphoma Society a lot. They're great on having just kind of a more fun approach and educating their people. And so it just I think in organizational leads of any kind, UICC, et cetera, where there are resources, those are good places to start because they're framed for people in a factual way, and then also to help empower them. Mm-hmm. But the second part is the one that worries me because if your doctor doesn't or can't give you the information to say, okay, but this is your leukemia or this is your lymphoma. The number of times I have patients that but I read so-and-so, and I'm like, well, let me tell you why that's not actually applicable to you. And that's the trickiest part. So I think it's never a bad idea if you are somebody that wants to be proactive and feels, stronger and more reward, whether it's your loved one or you, to really make sure the concerning statistics or the strict statistics are actually applicable. Because if nothing else from this question, just please know, no breast cancer is the same at A and B. No lymphoma is the same at A and B. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where navigating that is important. And you always say, like, what are the features of my, cancer? That's a place to start to make sure you're even receiving misinformation either from external or even from internal. You might be giving yourself the wrong information.
That's definitely a very important message.
Yeah. Definitely. And yeah, again, very relevant to the work that we do at UICC, obviously, working with so many organizations that they work really hard to send the message across. Mm-hmm. So, and also like talking about messages, obviously we are at the end of the 3 years campaign, Close the Care Gap, that is all about inequities in cancer care. Obviously, you're based in North America. That is a country that has a different system in terms of the access to health. But have you seen as oncologists some of those inequities firsthand?
All the time. I mean, that is the primary driver of the education that I do, is because it is very real, the inequity. And it's not, you can do the very basic kind, which is really tragic. It's like the color of your skin does seem to influence if you get the proper comprehensive testing of today, or if the treatment options are offered, or if it is assumed you don't have the financial means or social means. So that in itself is a terrible pit of the stomach, inequity. But then also just geographically where you live. Now, regardless of your gender or your color, which are real variables, just where you are and what resources are available, and then are you being told? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So whether it's in the country or the world, I think there's two big buckets, and you all are doing an amazing job at helping the access at all. Meaning, like, if the education was there, if it was offered, is it even available? Because that's a tragedy. If there's something that could have done better for your loved one, and it's just not available here, which I get hundreds of messages a week, right? Because of my content. I mean, in Canada, there's issues where it's like, I feel terrible that I'm just like, oh, I didn't know you couldn't do that there, and et cetera. And so that's hard emotionally. And then there's also then the equity problem of, okay, it's all available, but how do you make sure the doctor knows about it? Because things are, going so quickly now. Especially if they are oversaturated. They're seeing every kind of cancer because nobody else is around to do it. So it's very hard to make sure everything's so beautifully refined, And then, so those are the two different problems. So I think one way, a Band-Aid, is to, at least for the second part, talk about it. Have these videos, triple negative breast cancer versus hormone positive versus leukemia. So at least you know what's there. And then that's hopefully one tool to then go seek it out, or inquire about it rather. And then on the second front is to just talk about the ones that are the most, that you find passion behind to say this is like this needs to be available and offered, and then find people like you all that can team up and say, okay, so how do we do that? How do we get it done? You know, there's amazing things happening now at the World Leaders Summit that I met some of you all in California. I mean, I was so humbled that radiation is now trying to be available in places where it was like a foreign, you know, concept. Radiation can be extremely effective in certain cancer types. So it's people. I think when we, you know how it's like one finger is strong, but then when you put all five fingers together, you have a fist. I mean, that analogy to me is so beautiful and accurate. Like we are, all of us, that's how we get it done. I mean, the rules are even made by people, which are people. So it's like, if we, us, need to be the ones to be able to make that fist and go in, Rocky Balboa style, there's no reason to believe we won't succeed, right? But it does take the aggregate or assembly of efforts and passion to make it happen. And I think that's where global things like this are so amazing and humbling, because it's like, oh, you're great at what you're doing and dream and eat it and sleep it every day. And you too, and you too. And then pick different colors and put them together and say, so let's do this. Like, let's talk about it. Let's figure out what needs to be done. That's awareness, right? Like where the gaps are. And then, you know, pack the punch.
Yeah, absolutely. We really truly believe that where you live should not determine if you live. And it being the last year of the Close the Care Gap campaign, we designed this call to action where we are inviting everyone to press their governments, to press their health minister, to address these issues with a series, actually it's 9 recommendations. So this is what this last year of the campaign is all about. It's asking governments to address this so that cancer care is equitable everywhere worldwide. And actually, Sanjay, we have a last question for you, but maybe someone else wants to ask that question actually. So yeah. if you're willing to have this question asked by someone else,
we have a special guest
yeah.
that will ask the question.
Hold on for a minute. Or maybe
sure.
Not.
Hoping that it works.
Yes.
Hello, Letitia.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Thank you for this amazing live. My last question is, Sanjay, did you sign the World Cancer Day call to action?
I did. I signed the World Call Today action, and I shared it, and I thought it's again with the fist analogy. I mean, this is one opportunity, one way where you all have done it and made it easy to say, yes, I support equity, right? And that was an easy thing, and I very proudly did that.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. And
Dr. Shirin and the Onc Doc are happy to meet again, to meet at last.
Dr. Shirin,
not to meet again.
Yes. I don't know how many people here know, but I actually saw Fauda. Like I would do my notes and I would watch it. And the only problem was half of the show was like caption, right? So I had to pause my note so I could watch what was happening in the non-English phrases. It was so enjoyable. But this is a great demonstration right here of what coming together with, you know, equal passions like can really accomplish. We have to believe that, right? That's where this world is assembled by people and people. So we got to be strong and pack that punch.
Absolutely.
Totally.
And what a great way of having our final moment on the live for World Cancer Day 2024, that with these two amazing champions that we had the honor of interviewing today. So thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you.
And for your support to the campaign. It's really, we couldn't ask for better ambassadors really to the Close the Care Gap and the cause. So thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who joined us. We see lots of people from all over the world are really with you listening to all this great content. So we are so proud.
I think anyone listening, like that's always humbles me too. It's like, if anyone's younger than I am, which I'm in my late 30s, like you're doing more than I ever did at your age. Like that's it. You should be proud of yourself. If you tuned in, you listened, you took time out of your weekend for something that's important. I mean, you should be proud of yourself. And I'm humbled by the people that do that, because I wasn't this version of myself until only a couple of years ago. So thank you. Thanks everyone for listening and having that care and passion.
Thank you. Perfect. Bye. So thank you so much, Letitia. Thank you for joining. Sanjay, was absolutely wonderful meeting you, and thank you both.
Likewise.
Au revoir.
And this is it from us, from Geneva. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.
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 Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.